Hello, everybody. John Arvosis here, Washington, D.C. Welcome to another show. Oh, Sasha's moving in the background. We have movement. The dog is alive as well. We are here for another Ukraine update. I'm going to wait a couple minutes as we always do, just to let folks trickle in. I will start the TikTok crowd as well here. 1 second. Oh, turn off the ringer on my phone. All right, let's give a hey ho to the TikTokers here. One moment. I've got them on my iPad, you guys on my laptop. Manda Bear, you're creeping me out, Manda Bear. You keep coming first. I don't know how you do it. It's weird. It's witchcraft. Hey, everybody on TikTok and everybody on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter. I've got all of you guys on my laptop and I've got TikTok on my iPad, just so you guys understand why I keep looking back and forth and back and forth. So exactly, cue the Russians. They've been active the last few days. Oh wait, Johnny, not from Wales. Oh, and thank you, Pale Rose. That was nice of you already with the pride glasses. As you know, folks, we wait a couple minutes, have you guys introduce yourselves, say where you're from, which I think is kind of nice, and then we jump right in. But we take a few minutes, especially for the TikTok and YouTube both, actually. James from Oregon on LinkedIn. Actually, I'll even highlight a few of you guys since your image doesn't show up for everybody else in the chat, but it shows up for me. The Facebookers. There we go. But yeah, so things are pretty good here. Nothing too new. Again, decent chunk of news, so we'll get to that. This show we're keeping about an hour today because at 7:45, in other words, in an hour and 45 minutes, I'm going to be back on again because we are going to host a watch party. So, which should be fun or interesting. Flip the camera. Good point. I'm going to flip my camera here. Boom. There we go. But we're going to host a watch party for the hearings in front of the U.S. House of Representatives about the January 6th insurrection. Salut Strasbourg. About the insurrection. So poor quality of the sound today or the video or what? Don't use those phrases. It's not a great video feed. I don't know why it does these things. You know what? I will go and at least I'll change the quality setting there. Let's see if that's any better. Sasha is on the couch. She did move a minute ago, right when I started. So, you know what? I'm going to refresh the page. Let me see what happens if I refresh. Let's see what it does. All right, YouTube folks is my and we'll start in a couple of minutes, guys, over on TikTok. We just wait for folks to come in anyway, but I'm also having a quality problem over on YouTube. Is this any better, the YouTube folks? I just came back on. Is it better? Okay, good. I also changed the quality, so the quality is going to be 720p instead of 1080, and I reboot, so it should make it better. All right, guys. Welcome. Actually, we've already got a good crowd on TikTok too. Not a nice haircut. I got my haircut like 3 weeks ago. It just changes every day. It's the nature of having Greek hair. It does something different each morning. So it makes it look like a haircut, which is always fun. All right, guys. Let's tell you how this is going to work then. As I said, this is our 6 o'clock show, 6 p.m. Eastern U.S., New York City time, except that I'm in Washington, D.C. I'm also going to have a 7:45 show tonight in an hour and 45 minutes, where we are going to watch the congressional hearings about the insurrection. They'll be the first public hearings, very big issue here in the States. So we're going to have just a group together. You can find them online or here in the, hello. Thank you, Sky Queen. Going well. Appreciate that. You can find them online or on television if you're here in the States. Every network except Fox News is carrying them. Hi, Stephanie. And we'll go from there. So let's start with about 20 minutes of news, and then we will have the question and answer period. On TikTok, you may submit your news. I will show you if you go to the hopefully, not every computer works the same, but hopefully on your profile, you see mine, how you've got that red line there that says the live events. First of all, the live events will give you information on this event, but also the next one. So you could always click it and check the time for the next one in your time zone. Then it says Q&A. Q&A is how you can submit a question that I will try to get to during the question and answer period. Otherwise, I am going to be reading the questions on the screen, but they flow by and could disappear. So on TikTok, on YouTube, and everybody else, submit the question via the comment box. Otherwise, I always appreciate it if you do a super chat question, because those help me keep my work going, because so far I'm trying to do this full time. So if you submit a super chat question as my way of saying thank you, I promise I will absolutely get to it. I can't get to all the questions, but super chats I will always get to, and I will also attempt to get to it immediately, meaning the very next issue I get to, so long as I remember. I'm blurry again. This is really annoying me. I don't know what to do, guys. My internet is on TikTok. I'm assuming everything's going okay with the quality, but on just let me know TikTok. But YouTube, it's not. I'm not sure what to tell you guys. I already turned down the quality. You know what? I can go in one more time. I'm a little afraid, since we already started, I don't want to restart my internet. Let me reboot again. And I am not happy. So let's see. Let me see. All right. All right. The last time I'm doing this. All right, guys, on YouTube, hopefully it's good enough. Sorry, folks. TikTok is good. Yay for TikTok. That's what they said. YouTube was not doing well. So let's see. One more time. Okay, YouTube folks, how's it now? All right. It's all we can do. There's nothing I can do about it. There's no way to correct it. So anyway, that's what we're going to do. So you guys submit your questions via the Q&A. Last resort, you can use the comment box. I always appreciate the gifts you guys give, and we'll try to do a shout out when you do those. So thank you on TikTok, because those also, like the crown from I Want to be, what was it? I Want to Be a Good Man, because those things are gifts as well that help the creators keep doing the work we do. So thank you, Marcy, for that as well. All right, guys, let me dive right in. So the late breaking news right before I got on is that Zelensky has been invited to the NATO summit in Madrid on June 28th, 29th. The NATO Deputy Secretary General Mircea Geoana said that, thank you for that, by the way, Beverly and TC Lou. The NATO Deputy Secretary General says that NATO is expected to make a decision on Ukraine at the summit. Now, God knows what that means. I don't know what that means, but nonetheless, Zelensky's been invited, so I'm kind of curious what's going on. You'd think if they were going to totally trash Zelensky and trash Ukraine, they wouldn't even have him come. So let's see what happens. Thank you, Marcy, for that, and Ali for the hand hearts, and Azamak for the whipped coffee. So let's dive right into Sverdlovsk. So as you guys know, the big battle that's been going on lately has been, and I'll take this off from Sky Queen. Thank you, Sky Queen. The big battle going on lately has been Sverdlovsk here in eastern Ukraine. Lot of back and forth in terms of the Russians and the Ukrainians controlling it. It looks like the Russians have more control now. There's a lot of street battles going on. There was even reporting today, which kind of makes sense, actually, that the Ukrainians may not even be trying to win this town, that they may not be trying to actually win it, because it seems that they probably know the Russians can at least win that town because they've got enough artillery just to blow the hell out of everything. But that the Ukrainians very likely are trying to destroy as many Russian troops and as much Russian equipment as they can. So they're making the Russians fight and fight and fight and fight. Thank you, 5150. Fight and fight and just wear them down, kill the troops so that the Russians are less able to do any other fighting in the rest of Ukraine as time goes on. So interesting strategy there, and I would say it's one that I probably believe at this point, because let's see, I'm not necessarily claiming to be an expert on, war and who's going to win, but I do have a feeling that Russia may be able to pull this off, where they're able to get the two provinces in the east that they want, but I don't think they're going to be able to go any further. And the Ukrainians are just trying to cause as much damage as possible before that happens. So that's it for Sverdlovsk. Like I said, there wasn't anything really big with that. Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city in the northeast. No updates at all from there. There's been no change in the land there. They're still fighting, but no changes. Kherson down here, remember Crimea, the Russians annexed. All of this land now, more or less, the Russians have captured, at least for now. And Kherson, town they're occupying, a lot of opposition in the town, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Really good news on the opposition front. I mean, partisans blowing up bombs, doing lots of stuff, causing trouble for the Russians. In Kherson, the Russians are intensifying their operations, most likely because the Ukrainians have been causing so much trouble for them. The Ukrainians launched a number of counterattacks in the last week or so. They didn't win a lot of land. They won some, and they won some significant land in that, for example, they were able to get close enough to a major highway that the Russians need to be moving supplies in and out. And now the Ukrainians can bomb that highway, which is great whenever the supplies come. Where is this? On Kherson. There isn't much more, though. No big successes, and they're likely responding to the Ukrainian counterattacks. So, as I said, no big news on any of the front lines today. Putin made some interesting news that backs up what I've been saying. He today compared himself to Tsar Peter the Great. And I don't have the exact quote in front of me. I read it earlier today, but he was talking about how, Peter the Great was on a and he's basically alluding to himself. Peter the Great was on a historic mission, not to take foreign land, but to take land in the Baltic states that belonged to Russia anyway. And he was simply reuniting these lands with Russia, alluding to Ukraine, because it's the same argument Putin uses about Ukraine, claiming that it's not really a foreign country. It's always been Russia, blah, blah, blah. What is interesting is one of the things that I keep saying to you, that I've been saying to you guys, and I bring it up in the context of nuclear weapons, because it's the question people ask every day practically is, do you think there'll be nuclear war? Should we believe Putin's nuclear threats? And I kept saying that Peter the Great, because of St. Petersburg, and he's from St. Petersburg, so he's got this whole weird connection to it. I've been saying from the beginning that I don't think Putin's going to have nuclear war, and especially not on his deathbed, because Putin sees himself as a czar. He wants to be the most powerful leader Russia has ever, the most powerful, king Russia has ever had, that he is reuniting Magna Russia, as I'm calling it, right? Greater Russia, and he's going to get back all of these lands that really belong to Russia. Now, if you believe that on your deathbed, you don't plan on launching a nuclear war that's going to wipe all of that out, that is going to kill everybody in your country because the Americans are going to shoot back with their missiles, with the nuclear submarines, and there's just no way of winning that. Thank you, Messi, for both of those. And so this, for me, reinforces that. If he sees himself as the czar that has to grow Russia, getting into a nuclear war that blows everything up does not cement him in the history books as the greatest guy who expanded Russian land. So thank you, Baby Shoe, for that. Just wanted to bring that up. I mean, it's interesting because a lot of people brought it up just to go to Putin's mentality of where he is. But I thought it was interesting in terms of the nuclear threat and everything else as well. The Russians have sentenced 3 foreign fighters to death. We've talked about them before. Excuse me, they aren't foreign fighters. They are foreigners born abroad, 2 Brits and 1 Moroccan, but lived in Ukraine for years and joined the Ukrainian armed forces. So they were legitimate members of the Ukrainian armed forces, captured in Ukraine, and the Russians put them on trial simply because they were foreigners. Well, the Russians, the collaborationist government in the East, the fake government that the Russians are behind, put them up for, there we go. Actually, you guys want to report the crazy Looney Tune? Hold on, I've got to report. Gosh, we're getting spam now. That's interesting. Don't usually get spam. One moment. Oh boy, they don't make it easy here. Jeez, there we go. All righty. All right, they're gone now. It doesn't make them go away. Sorry, guys. All right. There we go. Okay, guys. Sorry. I did get rid of some trolls we had over there. So they're not mercenaries. No, the Russians were calling them mercenaries and saying, well, therefore, they're not prisoners of war. We can do whatever we want to them. We don't have to abide by the Geneva Convention. That is a total lie. They're members of the Ukrainian army. They're members of the Ukrainian army. and they're not silly Yanks. They're two Brits and a Moroccan, actually, and they're members of the Ukrainian army. The Russians have got to treat them under the Geneva Convention, and as James just said, these are legitimate war crimes, what the Russians are doing yet again. So these guys were sentenced to death. There's talk that the Russians, of course, want to use them as some kind of a ploy. One of the thoughts is that the Russians are somehow going to they're going to force Great Britain to recognize Eastern Ukraine, these fake breakaway provinces, so to speak, these fake whatever they are, as independent countries or something, or they won't get their guys back. There is no way in hell that Boris Johnson's ever doing that. And as somebody just said, Boris sending in the SAS is about what they should be doing. There's more show trials planned as well, which takes us back to the Stalin years. Again, this is why I keep talking about how, to me, this is the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union is back with Russia. They're talking about the Russian investigators on Thursday said that they had opened more than 1,100 cases into crimes against peace. I love the name of that, crimes against peace, committed by the Ukrainian government, paving the way for what could turn into a massive show trial of hundreds of Ukrainian service members. Again, this is the Russians. You try several actual war criminals, so they've got to try 1,000 innocent people because they're bullies, and it's what they do. Let me see. Elise, thanks for doing this. Actually, I just finished that topic anyway, so a good time to look at what Elise is talking about. Hang on. More show trials. Could you talk about how the White House and Congress can prepare to maintain support for Ukraine no matter how the midterms go? Seems like the right is very divided re-Russia. Interesting question. Interesting question. There's two things. One is the American people you've got to keep the American people on board, so that it doesn't matter who wins. Now, to some degree, because of what we've become as a country in the last 5 or 6 years, people tend to go with their political party. So when and I'll say this, even among Democrats, Democrats used to be more favorable towards Russia. Republicans were way more negative because of the history with the Soviet Union. I always said that, okay, you are so leaving. I had always said that Russia was a problem, no matter what political party I was in. But because people follow their politicians, once the Democrats turned on Russia, and once Trump felt he had to defend, or Trump, I shouldn't say felt he had to defend, Trump started defending Russia, you had a switch. And Republicans started thinking Russia, in the polls, Republicans loved Russia. And you were like, oh my God. And Democrats hated Russia. So the problem you get is you get a situation where I worry about what's going to happen with the political parties themselves. So far, the Republicans have been very good about Ukraine. Mitch McConnell, who would be the majority leader in the Senate if Democrats lose in the fall, has been excellent about Russia. Donald Trump has been horrific about Russia, and he's also been pretty bad about Ukraine. Trump's been very bad about Ukraine, but in terms of during his presidency, Trump was the one who wanted to withhold arms shipments to Ukraine unless Ukraine helped him dig up false evidence on Joe Biden to interfere in our election. But Trump also said just a couple of weeks ago that, thank you to Ear, that he was concerned that we were spending money on Ukraine when we had so many problems in America. So I think, unfortunately, Trump is going to have we're going to have the same problem again if Trump runs for office. And that could happen. He could announce that right after the midterm elections, with Trump trying to convince the American people in the Republican Party, especially, that they shouldn't help Ukraine. And if Trump turns on Ukraine, I mean, he already has, but if Trump gets a bigger voice turning on Ukraine, you could have a problem. Because Fox News has already been a problem, and Fox News helps direct the Republican Party. And the House of Representatives will be run by people who are not nearly, if the Republicans win there, who are not nearly as sympathetic to Ukraine as Mitch McConnell is. So I don't know. Thank you, Crusher. I don't know how you actually prepare for it, because you can work on public support, which helps, but in the end, it's going to cause more. The only way you can get around it, I mean, there's two things. One, it depends how you vote in the election. But the other thing is you've got to keep the American people on board so that if Trump, for example, tries to lead the Republican Party away from helping Ukraine, that the Republicans are so on board, Republican voters, that they finally stand up and say, no, you know what? Maybe they say we like Trump, we'd vote for him, but on this one, he's wrong. But make it so that they're strong enough on this issue that they're not willing to go along with Trump on it. So that's what I got to say. Oops, hang on a second. Okay, there we go. Let me go to the next issue. Partisans. Thank you for that, Elise. Partisans. Oh, so there's been a lot of partisan activity. This has been really nice. A lot of effort going on among the Ukrainians, basically blowing things up in the occupied lands that they've got, that the Russians have taken over from the Ukrainians. So a few examples. The Kremlin-backed mayor, this is all in the last couple of weeks. The Kremlin-backed mayor of the Ukrainian town of Enerhodar was standing on his mother's porch when a powerful blast struck, leaving him critically wounded. They bombed the front porch of the mother's house, waiting for him to show up. I mean, that took some interesting planning. A week later, about 75 miles away, a car packed with explosives. Now, mind you, this is in Russian-held territory, deeply in Russian-held territory, okay? So it takes some really good work to be able to pull this off. About a week later, about 75 miles away, a car packed with explosives blew up at the office of another Russian-appointed official in the occupied southern city of Militopol. Now, Militopol is right here. Now, Enerhodar, I don't know where it is. It's not on my map, but Militopol is right here. Let me just look here. Boom. More than a dozen high-profile attacks in recent weeks indicate increased partisan activity aimed at Russian occupation forces in Kherson and Zaporizhia regions. So we're talking here and here. So all along here, actually, this is here, and we just had Militopol. So this entire area, there's been a big increase in attacks by, okay, we say partisans, we use the word guerrillas. Basically, it means, well, it could be private citizens, it could be people working with the military, but I always give the example of, me in Washington, D.C., the Russians invade, they take over. And I get together with my friends and we look for ways to cause trouble for the Russians, to bomb them, to go after, set bombs outside the coffee houses where the Russian military guys like to go, right? Things like that. Those guys are, you could say freedom fighters. That's a good word. Freedom fighters. Partisans, guerrillas is another term, G-U-E. Wolverines is exactly what it is. Now, folks may not know, Enerhodar is right near Zaporizhia. Okay. I knew about Zaporizhia. I didn't realize that's where and Enerhodar was. The Wolverines, right, from Red Dawn. The Wolverines in Red Dawn were partisans or guerrillas. The final point, in the past month, Ukrainian partisans claim that insurgents have attacked Russian trains and killed dozens of Russian soldiers, as well as supporting Ukrainian military counterattacks. Now, on the Russian side, this was kind of interesting. I mean, nasty. But the Russians are conducting psychological warfare against the Ukrainian troops, trying to kill their morale in the same way that the Russian morale has been killed. Listen to this. Russian forces are escalating the use of psychological and information operations to damage the morale of Ukrainian soldiers. The Ukrainian Main Intelligence Directorate reported that Russian forces are sending threatening messages to the personal devices of Ukrainian servicemen, calling on them to betray their service oaths, lay down their arms, surrender, or defect to Russia. The Ukrainian intelligence reports that Russian forces are sending messages on a variety of platforms, including SMS, Telegram, Viber, Signal, and WhatsApp, and that the messages use location information to threaten to harm the service members or their family members. So, of course, when it's Russia, you've got to have a war crime or two thrown in because this is what they do. So the Russians are threatening to kill the family members of Ukrainian soldiers. Of course, what a surprise. Ukrainian expert Dmitry Snegirov Additionally noted that Russian propagandists are conducting informational and psychological campaigns to spoil the morale of Ukrainian troops by disseminating information that the battle for Sverdlovsk, that town we talked about in the east here, that the battle for that is going to turn into the next Mariupol. We're all going to be trapped and bombed for 2 months. The Russians are having enlistment problems, which is good. The Ukrainian Southern Command reported that the Russian military enlistment offices in Crimea, and remember Crimea, the peninsula down here that Russia stole in 2014, that's Crimea, that the enlistment offices in Crimea are false. These are the Russian enlistment offices, are falsifying the results of mandatory medical exams administered during the summer conscription period to maximize the number of recruits. They don't have enough recruits. So they're faking it. People who aren't healthy enough to get into the military, the military itself is lying on the forms so they can get the people in there. Crazy. There's discontent growing among the Russians as well. I've got a number of stories on that. There was another Molotov cocktail attack. We've had a number of those against Russian recruitment offices. This one was actually against a Crimean administration building, so a local governmental building, but the person said he did it in protest of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The Institute for the Study of War has previously reported that forced mobilization in Donetsk and Luhansk, which are the 2 provinces in eastern Ukraine that Russia's trying to steal now, that forced mobilization, they're forcing people to join the military to fight, but on the Russian side, is exacerbating social tensions and sparking protests, which is great. And this was great too. The Ukrainian General Staff also reported that unspecified elements of the 106th and 76th Guards Airborne Assault Divisions refused to participate in combat in Luhansk and returned to Russia. So that there's a whole group of Russian soldiers who literally got to eastern Ukraine, refused to fight, and went back to Russia. So it's not enough, but it's a great beginning. And actually, I've only got one more story, and then we're done. And then we do Q&A. Hang on. So the final story, this was interesting, actually. Lviv is Ukrainian town way here in the west. Poland's right here. Lviv is right over here. So Lviv has had a lot of Russian rockets, but there hasn't been any other kind of attack because the Russian troops aren't in Western Ukraine at all. Lviv-born Russian oligarch Mikhail Friedman is seeking to move his assets to Ukraine and become a Ukrainian citizen. He can obtain that citizenship because it's possible for Russian businessmen of Ukrainian origin to get Ukrainian citizenship if the Ukrainians agree to it. Oh, thank you, NATO bot, for the cowboy hat. I almost missed it. Thank you. Sorry, when I'm looking down at the paper, I don't see what you guys are putting up. I apologize for that. But this Russian oligarch, their oligarchs are basically billionaires who are kind of corrupt. But nonetheless, if he's willing to come to Ukraine instead, the Ukrainians are like, you know what? We can tax your money, make us a lot of money, and it's embarrassing as hell to Russia that this guy is now trying to move his assets from Russia to Ukraine. I don't know whether he can get away with doing that, and frankly, the Russians will probably try to kill him. But nonetheless, that is what we've got. So that's what we've got for the news today. So he is kind of defecting. Yeah, he's kind of defecting. I hope he's already in Ukraine now, because with that news out there, they're going to try to kill him. That is the news. We will do questions for about half an hour, guys, and then we'll quit at 7 p.m. because we're starting again at 7:45 p.m. Eastern to do our watch party for the congressional hearings that are happening tonight about the insurrection, about the January 6th insurrection. Thank you, B-Dog. And we're going to get just a bunch of us together to watch together, which means I've got to turn my whole thing around because my TV's back there. But there we go. Oh, big shout out. Tyson's daughter's Sweet 16 is today. Aw. We could all sing happy birthday, except that would actually be just me singing happy birthday, which wouldn't be fair. Oh, is it Bailey is her name? Is it Bailey? Happy birthday, Bailey. Yep, give her exactly. You're getting happy birthdays on TikTok too, just so you know. Here, I'll turn the here, give a few more happy birthdays, and I'll give the there we go. We've got several happy birthdays on the screen on TikTok as well. That's nice. I know, I kept meaning to buy popcorn. I did not buy now we have now we're getting lots. We're even getting confetti. The whole screen is happy birthday, Tyson. That's cute. There you go. Let her know she was feted on TikTok by a bunch of strangers. That's cute. It keeps going. That was sweet. Thank you, guys. That was very cute. That was very cute. And they're doing the same thing on YouTube for her as well, and Facebook. Aw. Well, that was sweet. All right. Sky Queen. I actually saw a YouTuber who left Russia say that it's, oops, let me see here. I actually saw a YouTuber that left Russia say that its government is getting harder on their citizens, even cracking down harder on LGBT citizens during Pride Month. Is that possibly true? It's certainly possibly true. I don't know the details, but there was something about LGBT I thought I saw with Russia. Look, Russia has, thank you, Manda Bear, for the balloons, by the way. Russia has turned into a dictatorship again. I mean, it was always an authoritarian state, but it's turned back into a dictatorship. And as a dictatorship, someone's sending birthday cake here as well. It's cute. The birthdays are still coming in, by the way. They're a dictatorship. They are worried about any dissent at all because of the war and social stability and everything else. So therefore, anybody who would be considered a risk, any kind of activists, any kind of people who would be, upstarts, would be in danger. And LGBT people would include LGBT activists, so they'd be going after them. I would not be surprised if Russia is preemptively, okay, Tyson's now over on TikTok thanking everybody. There you go. I would not be surprised if they're clamping down on LGBT people, among others. Yeah, I wouldn't be at all surprised. Yeah. Again, they're turning back into a dictatorship. They've got to go after anybody and everybody who they think is a threat. At the same time, one of the big things that Putin and the Russians have always done is go after LGBT people, because one of the reasons they claim they invaded Ukraine was because Ukraine was getting so close to Europe, and frankly, Ukraine as well, is, pro-LGBT, that Ukraine is actually not bad. It's not perfect, but it's way better than Russia in terms of its approach to LGBT, to gay, lesbian, and trans people. So going after gay people and trans people is another way of sucking up to the public at large and almost justifying the war, right? It's part of Putin's battle against immorality and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, not surprised about that. Let me look at the questions here. I'll look on TikTok. Remember, guys, you can put your questions on TikTok in the Q&A box on my profile. Let me look here. That's not a bad point. I think they are doing stuff, though. Where do we get to see where our money is being spent in Ukraine? It would help in future support if there was transparency and current spending detail. I don't disagree with that. I'm not sure where. I mean, we do. Let me put it this way. We do know where the money is going, in the sense of a lot of it is delineated. Well, I mean, I haven't read the legislation. I've read summaries of it. We know general categories of money. But the thing is, those categories could be 10 billion for this, 10 billion for that. In terms of the details, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. My suspicion is the media would be looking at it. Our media would probably start to look at the Russian Orthodox Church. The Russian Orthodox Church, is horrific on LGBT rights. The patriarch in Russia, who's running the Russian church, Kirill, he actually got up and defended the war in Ukraine by claiming, in part, that it was to stop LGBT people, because again, the West is corrupt with LGBT and all this kind of anti-religion as he sees it. So he literally attacked LGBT people as part of his gross defense of the war in Ukraine. So the Russian church, forget it. I mean, the Russian church it's corrupt anyway because of him. Corrupt in terms of they're in bed with the politicians. That's a good point, though. I don't know where the details would be in terms of, like you said, an actual accounting or something that you could go online and look. That's a good question. I don't know, but let's see if they come up with one. But it is an interesting question. Any news about the grain? No news today about the grain. I mean, the big news with the grain before was yesterday that the crazy negotiations that were going on between the Turks and the Russians without Ukraine's involvement. The Turks and the Russians were negotiating over the grain and whether Russia would let Ukraine export the grain. I mean, it was crazy. And the Ukrainians were like, hello, so the negotiations finally broke down because Russia's awful and was making ridiculous demands. Russia wanted all the Western sanctions lifted, or it wasn't going to let the grain go. So, nobody's doing that. The mods must have just done something very good over at over at TikTok. I see a lot of thanks going on. Thank you, mods. Yeah, well, I mean, Chris, the thing is, well, he tries to downplay the Jews. I mean, Chris Thane is saying, so according to Putin, Ukraine is full of Jews, NZs, and gays. Well, he tries to downplay the Jews because he's going after the NZ thing. So that's why they keep saying, oh, Zelensky. He doesn't like to talk about the fact that Zelensky is Jewish. There really is a way the countries are withdrawn. Oh, that's good. Thank you, Tyson. I'm glad you liked that. That's exactly. Sorry, Tree Robotype. I was going to mention that. Brittany Griner, same thing. That when you're talking about the whole LGBT thing and Putin using it and the head of the Russian Orthodox Church using it as an effort to almost promote the war, right? By saying, look how decadent the West is and Ukraine is in bed with the West. The Brittany Griner, the female basketball star who was arrested when she was leaving Russia under, again, a totally false arrest. Thank you, Catherine, for that. Totally made up charges that she had drugs and all this kind of crazy thing in her thing. She's gay. And you better believe that was one of the best things that could have happened for Putin was to find somebody who's gay, because now and she's African-American, and there's some pretty heavy racism, and not that we don't have racism here too, but some pretty heavy racism in Russia too. But she's gay too. So it allows Putin to just have this villain American, other woman. She's black and she's gay, this kind of garbage. So absolutely. Let me just look here. All right. Just seeing if you guys had questions. If you guys don't have questions here, then I will go back to all right. I will go back to you guys, you TikTokers. You look here. Okay. Oops. No, all you have to do is hit post. Your question about the question was posted. So I'm hoping your question was posted too, but Nancy Ward, your question about the question made it up. Yeah, that's the tough one. Russia kidnapped Ukrainian citizens, including unaccompanied kids. How can Ukraine get them back? I've talked about this before. It ain't going to be easy, because the biggest problem is we don't know who Russia took. Russia's not going to tell us who they kidnapped. The Russians claim they've got over 1 million Ukrainians that they have that they're protecting in Russia, or some bull BS like this, right? The Russians themselves claim they've got over 200,000 children that they're protecting, and Russia's never going to tell us who they are, and we can't count on them. Thank you, Miss Mickey. How do we know? How do we know, even if the Russians tell us, oh, here's a list of, first of all, 1 million people, good luck. They're never going to have a list of 1 million people. Even if Russia gave us a list, it's not going to include everybody. We know for a fact that anybody entering Russia, I mean, I'm talking all the people they've kidnapped, the Ukrainian citizens, they put them through, what were they called? Infiltration camps, where they go through and question them about everything of the war, who their friends are, trying to see what their connections are, if they're at all political, if they all worked in politics, if they are activists in any way. They take them aside, and Lord knows what happens to them next. But I could almost guarantee you those people are never going to pop up on a list that's going to be given to Ukraine or the West saying we're holding these people. Those people are toast, I think. So that's the problem with the people that Russia has. We have to rely on Russia to be honest and tell them who they've got. and Russia's never going to be honest about that. So that ain't great. Let me just see here. Let me see here. Chris Thane, do you think the British and American multiple launch rockets will make a big difference? And what do you think about the criticism of Germany not sending the equipment they promised? The military experts seem to think that the multiple multiple rocket launch systems, thank you, that we are sending and the Brits are sending are hugely important, are a game changer, and can make a hell of a difference if we send enough and if we send enough missiles with them. But that they're hugely important, and will be important for the Ukrainians being able to fight back and get some of their land, get their land back eventually. Yes, that's considered hugely important. But they've got to, we're training them right now, which is good. We need to send, the Brits are sending 3, we're sending 4 at the moment. I'm just worried that that's not enough. We need to be sending a lot more than 7 of these systems. There more rockets come with them, but the 7 systems. As far as Germany, look, the problem for Germany has been, there have now been repeated reports about the Germans either going back on deals to provide weapons, slow walking deals on providing weapons, coming up with reasons the deal won't work. And we've heard this from multiple countries that they were working with, because the Germans do not want to ship weapons directly to Ukraine. Thank you, Louis. They don't want to ship weapons directly to Ukraine. They're insisting that other countries send weapons to Ukraine, other European countries, and then the Germans will send new weapons to the European countries. So the Greeks, for example, the Greeks were planning on sending or selling. I'm not sure which. I think sending. Thank you, Cam. Oh, that's new, Cam. I haven't seen that before. That's a new one. Thank you. The Greeks were going to be sending 200 either infantry fighting vehicles, or someone said yesterday, a combination of infantry fighting vehicles and tanks. And these were Soviet-era tanks. Thank you, Nancy, for the crane. Well, the Greeks came out this week and were livid and said the Germans had screwed up the deal. Now, this is what the Greeks are saying, but they were very upset. Excoriated the Germans and said the Germans were going back on the deal, were causing all sorts of trouble, and that the weapons now would not arrive until... Wait a minute, I'm mixing up my stories. Oh my God. Sorry, I'm mixing up my stories. The Germans did it twice this week. They did it twice this week. With the Greeks, they have one deal with the Greeks where the Greeks are providing weapons and the Germans are providing weapons to the Greeks, and the Germans are claiming that something happened and now they can't get the Greeks the weapons for several months now, which will slow for several months, for at least 2 months, the weapons going to Ukraine. That's the first problem. Right? Because Greece is worried about Turkey, so Greece doesn't want to give up a chunk of weapons unless it's getting new weapons back to protect itself. So that was the first problem. Germany, for some reason, is slow walking the weapons to Greece, which are slow walking the weapons to Ukraine. Then there was a separate deal to get a bunch of new weapons to Ukraine and their rocket launchers, I believe. And the Germans are claiming, oh, well, we can't send those weapons until, the winter now, because the software has to be updated on those weapons or they can't fire American and British missiles. Well, so a bunch of defense experts I follow on Twitter started putting up pictures of the German system shooting American and British missiles, meaning it already works. Thank you, Gordon, for that. That they don't need to update the system for it to shoot the British and the American rockets. But they're claiming, they're claiming a firmware update when in fact, that's exactly what they're claiming, a software update when in fact, the military experts already showed that these systems can use the American and British rockets without a problem. So, my concern with Germany is this has happened too many times. You can make an excuse for 1 or 2 examples, okay? You can make an excuse for 1 or 2 examples. And Mike, even if this example isn't true, what people are saying, this has happened too many times with Germany at this point. I don't trust them. I think it's where there's smoke, there's fire at this point. It's just too much at this point. I can't believe, it would be hard for me to believe that everybody's lying, including the German press, mind you, because most of these stories are coming out of the German papers, that the German media keeps lying, that the Greeks are lying, that the other governments are lying, that Ukraine's lying, and it's all, Germany getting beat up on. Anyway. Anyway, that's my cup of tea on that one. There's Thane. I did not see a DHS warning today. No. Well, I agree with this. Jody's is saying we need to stop drip feeding Ukraine and just give Ukraine all the weapons they need to defeat Putin once and for all. It feels like a tug of war. It does. I've said from the beginning that this reminded me of Vietnam in the sense that, one of the lessons I remember in grad school learning about Vietnam was there was also this just this slowness to the entire thing of our involvement and our slowness of getting out, and everything was very slow. And in other words, half-assed, and I feel like if you're going to try to beat Russia, beat Russia. If you're going to try to help Ukraine win, help them win. But don't, we started with some weapons and then we decided to give them better weapons. And then we got worried we started seeing Ukraine win, but then we got worried about them winning. And every step of the way, and even now, we were going to give them rocket launchers, but we didn't want to give them the really good rocket launchers. So we gave them the pretty good. I mean, the rocket launchers we're giving are still very good, but we didn't want to give them the really good ones. And then we couldn't give them the planes. Remember, God forbid we give them the planes. And then we were going to give them tanks. And then the tank deal, I think, also blew up. It's just this ongoing bullshit of constantly of just not coming clear and going, let's just do it. Folks should be able to, somebody's asking as an aside, since we're doing that later tonight about the January 6th hearing, the hearing on the insurrection. As I said, I'm going to be hosting a live a viewing party, so to speak. It is at 8 p.m. Eastern time, US, New York City time. We're going to start at 7:45 p.m. just to get rolling. You should be able to find it online. I saw somebody tell me that they thought one of the American networks, who was it, was going to be streaming it on TikTok even. You will find it on YouTube. The question is where. One place I think you will find it online is C-SPAN. C-SPAN is an American media thing, kind of. It's hard to explain, but they cover Congress. And their web address is their name and web address is C-S as in Sam, P as in Paul, A, N as in Nancy, SPAN. And you can Google them. It'll be online. That's it, CBS. Glitter Goddess is saying that CBS, the TV network CBS, B as in boy, S as in Sam, will be also broadcasting it on TikTok. ABC as well. Wow. Okay. Everyone's doing it on TikTok. How interesting. That's really interesting. They're doing it on TikTok. Okay. The problem is you can't watch them and me at the same time. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. If you do TikTok, you know what you can do? If you have it on TikTok, go over and watch us on YouTube tonight. Because or Facebook, but I'll be on YouTube at the same time I'm on the TikTok. Let me right here. I will once again, unless Moonmia or somebody, you've got it super handy. I can always write I've always got to find the comment box. This is my YouTube channel. Oh, there we go. That is my YouTube channel, John Aravosis DC. It might be youtube.com/, but all you have to do is Google John Aravosis DC. Oh, there you go. Thank you, Mia. I appreciate that. All you got to do is Google that and it'll bring you to my channel, and you'll see the live waiting on my homepage to go live in an hour. So you can use two devices if you can, but I'm not sure if I don't think it'll let you do two lives at once. Will it? Maybe. See if it does. But if it doesn't, you can always join my YouTube and then watch here. But we're just gonna watch together for fun. I mean, just to kind of hang out. And honestly, I want to watch the hearing and really listen. But it may get boring at times. We'll see. I'm more entertaining. I'm sure I'm more entertaining, but this is important stuff. So I'm hoping it will be riveting information. I think it will. But as I said, I'm going to have to kind of turn my room around and you'll get to see my messy kitchen, but that's okay. I made bread pudding today. We can talk about that later. All right. Another question. Since we've only got about 10 or 13 more minutes left, because as I said, I don't want to go too late tonight because I want to take a break before we come back. Oh, the fundraising goal. Yes. So we met our fundraising goal with the special help of a certain person, I'll say. But we ended up raising around $3,600 and change for the Ukrainian food charity called Harkovu Mir, Kharkiv Peace. And they are the food charity in Kharkiv, one of them, that has been delivering meals to people who don't have food. Kharkiv is the second largest city, as I've talked about. It's way up here. It's 1.5 million people, way up in the northeast. This is, again, the fighting zone. Kharkiv has been bombed by the Russians almost as much as Mariupol, probably the second city in terms of bombing in Russia. There's a lot of damage. People are out of their homes. People were in the subways for 2 months. People aren't working, so people don't have money. I mean, there's just been a lot of problems with food and hunger. So this charity has been providing 5,000 meals a day, and they themselves were in crisis because gas has gotten so expensive and hard to find that they're buying gasoline or petrol from middlemen, and the middlemen are charging crazy amount. Anyway, bottom line is we've been working with these guys for months, and they said they were desperate for money because they needed gasoline, petrol for their cars to deliver the food in the next 2 weeks. So they needed $3,500. We were able to get around $2,100 from your guys' donations combined. And then Nathan and Lucy, Nathan, I'm always going to forget your damn last name. This is going to drive me crazy. I think it's Lindlof. I think it's Lind because I think Nathan's watching. I think it's Lindlof. Nathan Lindlof and his wife Lucy were generous enough to kick in another $1,500 so that we would meet the amount that the charity said they really needed. So Lindlof, there you go. Well, it's in your own thing right there. But so special thanks to Nathan and Lucy because they really needed. And now you're getting thanks on TikTok as well. Special thanks to Nathan and Lucy and the rest of you as well. I mean, the rest of you kicked in 2,000, which was amazing too. They were really desperate. I mean, in talking to Vlad, my friend Vlad in Ukraine, who's coordinating it, they were pretty freaked out about the gas problem. So that's good. It's helping them for 2 weeks. Things are just getting harder and harder over there, which is tough, but what do you do? Anyway, so that was good. So thank you all for that. And thank you for the duck, B-Dog. What else we got here? Oh, that's interesting. Gab is saying the Kremlin received nearly 42,000 complaints in April from relatives of soldiers missing in Ukraine. Oh, what's interesting, sorry, someone's saying that CNN says it's starting in 10 minutes. What CNN is doing in 10 minutes is beginning their coverage. CNN is going to talk for an hour before the hearing, which actually I want to watch anyway. They're going to talk for an hour. They're going to bring on experts. And the whole idea is to talk about what's coming tonight. What are they going to talk about? Will it make a difference? Is there a political impact on all of this? Because we do talk politics too. So CNN is doing a pregame. That's exactly right, Miss Mickey. CNN is going to do a pregame for an hour. So the hearings do not start in 10 minutes. The hearings will start in an hour and 10 minutes. Andy, thank you for the origami crane. So there you go. But as I said, let's try to stop around 7 o'clock because that way I sort of have time to chill out a little bit before we come on again. It'll help. What else we got here? What else? The pre-show, exactly. Our tailgate. I don't know, Nordic. I don't know if it's a matter of punishing Germany. I mean, honestly, I think Germany is already getting punished for what's going on. Thank you, PS Pam. Germany is already getting punished in terms of their reputation for this. A lot of people are really disappointed in Germany. I'm in Washington, D.C. Really disappointed. So I think they're already paying a price. I mean, this has done and really kind of what really stinks about this is at the very beginning of the war, this was great for Germany. Thank you, Marcy. Germany was getting great coverage because remember Germany was approving the weapons sales that they hadn't done since World War II. They were going to increase their. I'll try to show her before I go if she's out here. They were. Oops, she's not. Oh, she is over there. She's in her little bed. The Germans are going to increase their defense spending. I mean, there was a lot of great reporting about how Germany had just stepped up here, and then they let it blow up in their faces. It's really, I mean, it's just no. I think again, when it comes down to it, blame it on the leader. I think Scholz screwed up. He really did. He took a lot of international goodwill with Germany that Germany had. And had even more, and just let it kind of go. really bad. France has been its own problem. I don't think France ever got the publicity. Germany was like, oh my God, look what Germany's doing. I don't think France got the, oh my God, look what France is doing. With Germany, it was like, look at Germany. Yeah. So that they unfortunately blew even more, Anyway. What else? Thank you, Grandma. I can look for another, that's what I mean. Germany came out of the gate swinging and then crashed and burned. Yeah, Schultz blew an incredible opportunity there that he had, Yep, I talked about the 3 guys getting the death sentence. Hi from Kay in Floyd, Virginia. Well, hello, Kay in Floyd, Virginia. Nice of you to say hi. Gorbachev said something recently that was really bad. I forgot what it was, but I think he basically supported the war. Now, Gorbachev is something like 120 years old. No, but I think, is he 98? Hold on. How old is Mikhail Gorbachev? 91. He's 91. But Gorbachev really gave some bad comments about the war. Yeah, it was not helpful. Not helpful at all. So yeah, that was not good. He did support it, exactly. I don't know. That's about all I've got on there. There aren't a ton of questions today on either of you guys. Gorbachev is still alive. He's 91. Yeah. Anything else today here? Saw a video of UK soldiers waiting for German weapons. Jeez. Was a snail with a bullet on its shell. Oh, I saw that one. Yeah, the cartoon. I saw that. Yeah. Well, he did say that. That was the interesting thing. Gorbachev had said earlier that there was no agreement that NATO wouldn't expand its borders because Putin kept saying there was an agreement that NATO wasn't going to expand, and Gorbachev said that's not true. But then recently, he also defended the war. Because I remember we were all kind of going, oh, Jesus. It could have been a month ago, 6 weeks ago, but we were all like, really? Did you have to say that, Gorby? Really? I know we didn't know Kissinger was still alive either. It's like a lot of surprising old men. Well, Zelensky, there's no way. I mean, Syndicate is asking, what if they only invite Zelensky to the NATO meeting so he's out of the country and then NATO can make a deal with Russia? Yeah, that's a little too conspiratorial. First of all, there's no way Zelensky is going to go in person to Spain for the NATO meeting. He's going to do it. He's got to do it by visual. He can't afford to be out of the country. There's no way. And he's made that clear. So I don't think so. He would have a hell of an impact going in person. That would be, but I don't think he can risk going in person. I just think it's too risky. In part because you could get killed. But it would be interesting though. It'd be interesting if he did. Yep. I talked earlier about the 2 Brits and the Moroccan. They were sentenced to death. They are members of the Ukrainian military. Russia is saying that they don't get the benefits of the Geneva Convention or any protections because Russia's calling them mercenaries. They're literally members of the Ukrainian army. And the Russians are committing a war crime here via their collaborationist surrogates in eastern Ukraine. So really disgusting what they're doing there. What else, guys? We just have a couple minutes. We can just hang out maybe for a few minutes because literally I really want to hang up at 7 in 4 minutes because I want to watch CNN, get the pregame show about the hearings. And then we're going to come back on in 45 minutes. Because also then I got to take a little time and move my computer around and all that stuff, which I'm not looking forward to. Well, I'm not going to change my mic. I may just move the computer and my iPad. That should be enough. Well, exactly. And we know Russia has mercenaries anyway. Exactly. Oh, and just a reminder really quick. So Yulia, you're there. Yulia's doing her panel discussion this weekend. Thank you, Baby Shoe, that I'm going to be on talking about the history of Crimea. So we will give you those details later, but it'll be Saturday at, I believe, 2 p.m. on YouTube. She and I are going to do a test run tomorrow morning to make sure it works. But the hearings are the U.S. House of Representatives Special Committee investigating the January 6th insurrection, the attempt to overthrow our government after the election last year. They are holding their first public hearings tonight on national television here in the U.S. So that's starting in an hour, and we're going to have our own live discussion, so to speak, hanging out and watching. So it should be interesting. So there. Yes, the January 6th hearings. So I do not want to stream the hearings because I'm still worried about how that works legally. Because, I've had enough trouble with TikTok that I don't want to get in trouble for streaming television if it's not allowed or something. You know what I mean? So I don't want to risk it. And same thing with YouTube, actually, too. I don't want anything on YouTube that could be considered copyright problem. So I'm going to ask folks. I'm going to be watching it in my room, but I'm going to be asking folks to be watching it either on your own TVs or pull it up on your computer, and you can join us on your iPad or your iPhone, or two different screens on your computer. Pull up, TikTok or YouTube and your broadcast. So there you go. I talked yesterday about the bill. Russia is debating legislation to no longer recognize Lithuania's independence, which, you know what? It's just BS. It's just BS. They're just trying to freak out the Lithuanians. Lithuania is a member of NATO. If Russia invades Lithuania, it's World War III. I promise you, as an American. Do not fear the Russians. Seriously, they touch you and it's toast. Unless Donald Trump becomes president, and then you might be toast. And I'm actually not making that up. That is going to be another issue Republicans are going to have to figure out what they want to do. Do Republicans believe in NATO or not? Because I don't think Trump does, and that's going to be a real big problem if we have to go to war because Putin invades NATO. So hopefully we're all on the same page. All right, guys, I'm going to hang up because I want to get my TV on, get things set up, and then join you in 75 or 45 minutes. On TikTok, you will find the profile. In my profile, you'll see a link for the live. And if you click it, it'll tell you the information for what time the live is exactly, but it's in 45 minutes. And join us. And the same thing for the YouTubers. On my YouTube homepage, the next live is there already, waiting to be entered. So join there. Thank you, guys. Mary, I heard about the South Carolina decision, but I also know nothing about it. I was busy doing Ukraine. I just heard about it earlier today, or Supreme Court, not South Carolina. I heard about some Supreme Court decision with border or something, and I had no chance to even look at it. So sorry. All right, guys, YouTube, I'm going to hang up, and TikTok, let's say goodbye for the next